Welcome back in, Miami fans. This is Brian Smith, your host today and every day, and I am also the publisher on All Hurricanes. Today's podcast is going to feature on 3 different Hurricanes recruiting topics. Number 1, we're going to talk a little bit about Zaquan Patterson and his upcoming commitment. 2, we're going to talk about Artavius Jones, the defensive tackle committed to the Canes that I just went and saw at practice. And then finally, 2025 quarterback Luke Nickel tore it up in his first start. So let's get started with the first bit of news, talking about Zaquan Patterson. To date, I want to go over some of the things that I've heard about him, speaking with him directly, people around him, and then where it's at now and what I expect down the line. So first off, this is a kid I've gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years, seeing him at practices, seeing him at opportunities for games, seeing him in opportunities at 7-on-7 events, etc. Zaquan is a big-time player, and quite honestly, I see why he has been recruited like he is. Tremendous player. First game of the year, by the way, he had a pick 6. Zaquan, his recruitment, it just went crazy. I would say even before January, when we got to talk to everybody a lot, I would say it actually went into hyperdrive before then. But Miami, Florida State, Ohio State, we're kind of talked about a lot. Michigan really got involved. And then most recently, it's been Auburn. Up until late July, I would say that Miami would be the team that I would have picked. Not that there was a clear cut from anything that he had told me or others around, but I kind of have a rule of thumb. Over a period of time, if it's a heated recruitment, doesn't matter the position, the year, etc., is there a program that's constantly either at or near the top for that prospect? And in this case, yes, Miami would be one of those schools. Zaquan's not afraid to blaze his own path, but close to home and all that, that's another reason I thought so. Recently, I've heard that that is not necessarily the case, and I know that Miami they've done everything in their power to recruit him, to put it mildly. But at the same time, if you're not going to get a kid, you're not going to get a kid. And all of the following I've heard. I don't know the specifics of the NIL game, but I've heard other schools have more. I don't know how true that is. Michigan, if it ends up being the pick, they're not a school that usually goes up front with NIL. Maybe that's changed. I do not know. And of course, it could always be a one-off. I know Dante Moore, UCLA, allegedly ponied up for him. It was the one kid in their 23 class that they went after and offered a bunch of NIL. There are a lot of unknowns here. But the schools I'm hearing the most now are Michigan, Auburn, Florida State. Miami has also made an offer to another player at the safety position, one of the kids from American Heritage. And I don't really think that's a good sign. Traditionally, when you offer a player at a position that you're waiting on another kid that's a 5-star, it's not a sign that you think you're going to get it. So with that being said, until otherwise proven, I don't think he's going to play for Miami, or at least he's not going to commit. There's still a long way to go in recruiting. December 20th is the final day for prospects to get to sign their letter of intent. So we're like 118 days away or something like that. It's August 23rd as I do this podcast. But right now, I don't think that's going to be the pick. If I had to guess, again, Auburn, Florida State, or Michigan, I don't know which one of the 3. And of course, now that I say that, watching pick Ohio State, it's been a topsy-turvy year for kids. I've at least 3 times this year, I would say, I've had a time where I thought a kid was going to a school based on information that I was given, and then at the last moment, it's not. In the era of NIL, the prediction game is very difficult at best. So even if somebody puts in a crystal ball or this, that, or the other, it can change 15 minutes before a young man goes to the podium. That's just the way it is. So I don't really think there's anything that you can do to predict anymore. You just kind of have to wait. It's kind of old school in a way. And I'm not trying to bug Zaquan or find out anything else. I kind of enjoy just waiting and seeing like everybody does. But right now, I don't think it's going to be Miami. I think they're in a much better position for Xavier Mincy. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Mincy could play corner or safety. So that's something else we'll talk about down the line. But right now, I don't think they're going to get Mr. Zaquan Patterson. Second point of this, let's talk about Artavius. I drove all the way up to the Panhandle, and it's why I'm about punch drunk right now, even though I've had a sleep and a nap. My body's out of kilter. It's over 10 hours of driving I've done all told on that trip. But I went to see him, and I want to make a few general observations, tell a few stories based on what people around him at the practice said, etc., and then kind of go from there. Artavius is listed at like 290. Right now, he's about 310. He's gained too much weight. He needs to lose a little bit. But even at that, he moves in a way that is just not natural. Kids that are 200, 220 pounds would be more of the range that I would expect the flexibility that I saw from Artavius. So obviously that's elite. When you can bend at 300 plus pounds, and I'm talking about the knees, not the waist, the knees, that's a sign, a really, really good sign that things are headed in the right direction. If I had to guess, I would say he's in the 99 percentile just athletically for a person his size at his age. He can change direction. He can run straight ahead, break down, and move right, move left, whatever it is, to chase down the ball carrier. The only question with him, like anybody else that is God-given at this level, how much do you want it? How much do you want it? You cannot teach the ability, but he must have the effort. And we won't know until later because he's not even to college yet. It's a really difficult thing to do, to really want to push yourself when he plays 1A football at Bluntstown. For those that don't know, I should have said that already. Bluntstown's 45 minutes from Tallahassee. It's southwest of Tallahassee, middle of nowhere. Just a very small town on a country highway. He's never been challenged. And even at practice, Artavius Jones, they're not going to put somebody in front of him. He's just going to obliterate him. There's like 30 kids on their team or whatever without the JV. It's a very small team. It's 1A football. So he's just dominated, catches the football. They're going to do different things with him. Coach Jordan said, we're going to toss him the ball this year. It's like randomly said that to me at practice. And if you're some poor kid in the Panhandle that has to go up against that and you're the outside linebacker, good luck to you, and I hope somebody covers that kid's mother's eyes. It's not going to end well. It is what it is. So how does he translate to the college level, playing in the ACC with Miami? I don't know. Obviously, he has too much size and strength for where he's at. But how does that culminate in him making a transition? Because he could play early in Miami. Number one thing on the board isn't defense tackle for Miami in this class. It's more specific. Big defensive tackles, not developmental. They need impact guys. Impact now because they don't have enough size after this year. Taylor will probably leave. I'm assuming that. Now, if he doesn't, Miami's in a better spot than what I'm talking about. But he would only have one more year anyway. Let's see what he can do between now and the time he enrolls to get in better shape. I think that'll kind of take care of itself. But then it's work ethic and just adjusting to the culture of being in college football at the University of Miami and playing for the U. So huge, huge talent. Can he move? Absolutely. Just watching him run, yes. I saw the way he interacts. He's a fun kid to be around. I'm very excited about him. My opinion of him went way up, basically. I don't need to see him run over people in pads at the high school. I care less. Just wanted to see how he can move around, and just doing some sprints and stuff is all I really needed. Just seeing how he moved was different. Coach Jordan brought up something really interesting. This is a great couple of comparisons. He said, you remember, or you talk about him like physically. He said, if you think about it, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers walked out on the field right now and he was with them in uniform, like had a helmet so nobody could see his face, you would think he's one of the Buccaneers. And I was looking, we're about 20 feet from Artavius at the time. And I said, you know what? You're right. The way that the big hips, the big legs, it's unbelievable how many different guys there are that you could talk about that are just talented, but they're missing like one key ingredient. If you're a D tackle, that power in the hips and the legs is a prerequisite to be a dominant player. You got to be able to root out a 300+ pound man against his will, play after play. There is no shortcut there. Do you have the power? If you don't, it doesn't work. If you do, it's a godsend, because then it opens up the opportunities not only for the player in question, but the linebackers behind him, the safeties, the corners, the nickel, everything else to do stuff, because either he's going to get double teamed, they're going to scheme against him, run the ball away, etc. It makes it easier for other players. That's why defensive tackles are so coveted. Artavius Jones, excuse me. I'm not going to anticipate his recruitment slowing down. Florida State and Colorado or a couple of the schools still coming at him, but he was rocking his Miami gloves, and he was talking to Jordan Pride, who's committed to Texas A&M, ironically, because the two schools obviously are getting ready to play. And he was talking about it's year 2 for Cristobal and his staff. We're going to see Miami's going to beat them, and they're just having fun with it. Again, that's part of the personality, and it's very important. I think Artavius will fit in well at the University of Miami. So now the final point about him, if he does make the transition, we're talking about a player from a physical standpoint that long term, there's no reason he shouldn't play in the NFL. I don't care if he's in 1A division. I don't care what, On 3 or 247 or Rivals, ESPN. I've seen him live at a practice. I've been around him. It's different. I cannot define that for you on a podcast. Even I got like one video clip him run around. It's no big deal. You have to physically see him with your own 2 eyes. There is no other way around it. And I know 99.9% of you will not until he's at college. I get it. I am convinced this is a top 100 talent in the country conservatively. It's just up to him. So really excited about his future at the University of Miami. Last segment is Luke Nickel in speaking of the future. For any of you that did not take the time yet or run across it on some timeline on a social media platform, there are clips of Luke Nickel, the 2025 quarterback from Milton High School, just north of Atlanta, playing his first game. And I can go on and on about numerous things about him, but here's the number one point you should know. Accurate. Luke Nickel is accurate. Pretty boring to say, but it's the most important area to be highly skilled at. Sometimes quarterbacks find a way, they do things awkwardly or whatever, and it kind of gets there, but his were just natural. It looked comfortable to the eye, everything that he did throwing the football. Luke Nickel was a very good quarterback as a sophomore, and I saw the potential in his arm, but there were plays where he threw from the upper half, and that was about it. Didn't always use his legs the way he should. And I'm really, really, really picky about this stuff. Shooting a basketball, throwing a baseball, all of that I was good at growing up. Luke had some things where he was just natural at it, but he used his upper half. That had to go. And I didn't see that the first game of his junior year, at least from the throws that I saw. I didn't see the whole game. Obviously, I wasn't there, but I'm very curious to see if he can continue that, because the throws I saw were not only accurate and looked like a very comfortable motion. Here's the other extended part that is a really good sign. He's in shotgun. He would get the snap, and he would throw the football. Everything had a natural timeline to it. There was no hesitation. There was no awkward in-betweens, false steps, hike, catch, make decision, complete decision, end of story. It was as if he had been doing it his entire life, and we're talking about a 30-year-old, not a 16-year-old. So it was really good to see. Back shoulder fade, had a great pass there, had a bomb. Those are the kinds of throws when you're making those first game of the year. Timings are always awkward for passing games at every level. First game, it's difficult. He probably didn't have the same comfort as a sophomore, I'm going to guess, but he was still good. The step that he took forward is tremendous, and that means all of the following. He's put in the time. He's got the right people around him. Milton's a 7A school, in case you didn't know, and it's a big-time program in terms of having talent, playing against top competition on the north edge of Atlanta. They're always going to have players. So he's been just from natural osmosis, been around a lot of good talent. He's got a receiver going to A&M. There are other kids that are college players there. His brother's going to Michigan State. They've got, or is already at Michigan State, excuse me. He is used to being around elite talent. All of that is going to help him. And that's also going to help Miami because now Luke Nickel is in a circumstance where he's the first commit of 25. And that's going to help get receivers. In case you didn't see on All Hurricanes, Malachi Toney committed to the Canes. He's class of 26, one of the top receivers in that class, regardless of state. He's from American heritage. I'm sure knowing that Luke Nickel is coming is not hurting the cause there. That's a good thing. There are going to be other kids in 24, 25, and 26 that catch the football, whether it's running back, receiver, slot receiver, tight end, flex tight end, whatever you want to call him. He's going to have an impact. He also, with Milton, will be playing down at Western High School. I believe it's the first week of September. I could be wrong, but that game's coming up. Some of the people that are down there, the game, I don't know if it's at Western High School or a neutral site, but that's who they're playing. It's Broward County. If you got a chance, go check it out. Luke Nickel is a very, very talented quarterback, and he can spin it. I think you're going to be spending some good time doing that because, again, on time, accurate. He's got arm strength. Very natural. There's an even flow to what he does. This is what you're looking for. Shannon Dawson and the Canes are going to have a playmaker there. Miami needs more of that. And again, I cannot stress enough. Him being the first kid in 25 is huge. Get the quarterback. That's the key piece to any class, whether you really, really need a quarterback or not, because it's the most important position. Never going to change. And other people will follow. That's at least in theory. I don't know if he's a vocal kid, if he's really going to push to recruit. I mean, that's got to be a natural thing. Coaches can't force kids to do that. But Luke Nickel is a guy that once somebody pops in the film, it's going to be pretty hard if you're a receiver or tight end. Oh, I wouldn't want to play with that kid. Why? He's really good. He had a bunch of offers for a reason, and I have a feeling that Miami is going to see a lot of schools still come after him because he's just good. That's a good problem to have. That means he's coveted for a reason. Amen to that. Final point about Luke Nickel. If he continues on this trajectory, who knows? Maybe he could be the next great Miami quarterback. Anything's possible. He's still only a junior in high school, but it is great for Miami that they got that commitment already. Last little ending note here. With the season coming up, the Hurricanes host the Red Hawks, Miami, Ohio, Miami versus Miami. There's going to be a few things coming up about the games on All Hurricanes, but overall, keynote here, and I've said this a few times on social media platforms, etc. September 1st is big with recruiting because we're going to start seeing where kids are for games. We're going to start seeing official visits, a handful of them. Those are going to be point. And so is the next one. Kids committed elsewhere. Ward only knows in South Florida. There's plenty of that, but they still take visits. It's never going to change in that regard either. It's a different animal in South Florida. These kids could be visiting Miami, committed to somewhere else. Pay attention to where kids go, what they're doing, not what they're saying on social media or in an interview with me or anybody else. It's what you do. It's not what you say that matters in recruiting. I don't have any lists, or I haven't heard or even tried to find out who's coming from Miami of Ohio. I would expect that the A&M game is the bigger one. Artavius, for instance, told me that he wants to go down for the game. I don't know if he'll make it, but he would like to go. I'm sure there will be a long list of players that are going to be going. Miami, they've got a chance to finish this class strong. They still need to get another defensive tackle. They still need to kind of finish. I mean, they're still trying to get a couple of key guys, but for the most part, it's a really solid group. They just got to get 3 former players. Maybe they save a scholarship for a transfer portal guy or something too. Who knows? But they're in position with a lot of players, and they're still going to continue to recruit Jeremiah Smith, etc. So with that, please hit this notification bell, like this podcast, and save it. Make sure you know to come back. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff once the season starts, right before the season when they're not letting media and there's not much to talk about. We're just kind of waiting for the final few days before the games. We got week 0 contest, USC and Notre Dame play. It's not the greatest games, but at least we got college football, so do enjoy it. Make sure that you enjoy all the things leading up to it too, because college football is fun. I think we kind of take it for granted sometimes in this country. College football is one of the most unique spectacles in all of sport. In all of sport, not just the United States, but anywhere. Make sure that you enjoy it. So once again, thank you very much. And last request, a comment. If there's something you want me to talk about, please let me know. Everybody have a great day. Thank you very much.